Okay.
Has it gone on?
No, it's not on my computer.
Yeah, I have it on my computer as well.
Let me refresh.
I'm refreshing as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we are online.
Yeah, we're online because I can see my face.
I can see my face.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
All right. So, to everyone who's watching, my name's Lorenza. I'm the president of the Debate Society. This is going to be a weekly podcast that the Debating Society is going to be host, and we hope to have different people in every week to discuss the previous week's topics. So, would the three lovely gents joining me tonight please introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Mo. Well, that's what everyone calls me. My full name's Mohammed Jallo. I am studying civil engineering first year at BCU. Lovely to meet everyone.
Hi, my name is Alex. Full name Alexandru Mihnevich, best called Alex. I'm second year in the School of Law at Birmingham City University.
Hi, I am Alexandros, and I am a second year law student, and I am also the treasurer of the society.
Perfect. So the first topic we're going to be talking about today is the climate change thing that was approved today. Let me share right here. So, in Paris, several of major powerhouses have accepted a deal to minimize the effects of climate change. They're actually going to stop using natural fuels. Well, not stop, but like lower the use of natural fuels. How great is that?
Well, yeah, it's fantastic that, over 190 countries have agreed this. But I want to know, like, to what extent it is, because it is legal. It is legally binding for, like, the first time. But we also had this with the Kyoto Agreement Protocol, which was
Yeah.
ages ago, and not many nations have actually stayed true to that. So, is this just more talk, or will this actually have an impact? That's what I want to know.
A lot of people have been like going on and on about that, but it's like we have to at least give it to them that they have gone and publicly agreed to this, and we can name and shame them basically if they don't approve to it. They have how many years to apply this? 2 years, right? To make it. Yeah, they have like 2 years to apply what they agreed to. But in the end, you kind of can't, take like the UN and force them with violence to do what was agreed to. So.
Well, yeah. I suppose everyone seems to be quite positive about it. So I guess we can only see. We can only wait and see. But I think it's going in the right direction anyway, especially with a nation like America finally acknowledging that it actually has any responsibilities.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Well, like there was one part that you guys can see right on the article that I'm showing now. And I'll read this out. Traditionally, such pacts have required developed countries like the United States to take action to lower greenhouse gas emissions. They have exempted developing countries like China and India from such obligations. But this time, China and India are not exempt, which is fantastic because they are some of the countries that produce the most, pollution. Like China, what is it, this week or last week, actually had a red smog alert in which people were like banned from going outside because the smog was so bad. So, we now are saying like it doesn't matter if you're a developing country or not, you need to take steps to improve this. And I think that's fantastic.
In my opinion, this might not change much. Why is that? Well, from what I know, is that most greenhouse gases actually come from auto vehicles and such. basically the consumption of fossil fuels, and there is a big problem with this because um, it would mean to, in the long run, to actually change the technology used to I don't know, transportation or something. Basically turn vehicles into using electric powered vehicles, which are not pollutive to, or at least not that much. But this would affect a lot of the economy because many companies around the world uh, base their income on the use of fossil fuels. So there's kind of an economical interest in this, that they want more money in the from these fossil fuels, because if we are to implement electrical cars, then people would not buy gas anymore, and this would have a massive impact. So you could say that they would not agree to this just because of this.
I mean, yes, go on.
I was gonna say I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like I don't like this idea of jobs for jobs' sakes. Like the reason why humans work is to improve our society and improve our standard of living. And if we're going to carry on this route of exploiting fossil fuels and damaging the environment, then there isn't going to be any life or any actual good life. So we'll be working for nothing, basically. So no, I would rather be on a planet with a couple less jobs that's more sustainable than be on a dying planet where everybody has employment.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that jobs will be, will be obliterated or something like that. Green businesses are popping up all over the place, and this is a huge job market if governments would just invest in these businesses.
Yes. Also,
I agree.
They have 2 years to find out a way which they will work, like create a new strategy for their businesses, etc.
Yeah, well, the governments have, I believe, 2 years to present a strategy to the climate change board that they just met. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll move on to our next topic, which huge win for women in Saudi Arabia. 5 women have now been elected in Saudi Arabia on the first year that they were allowed to run for office.
Yay! Woo!
Woo!
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is a hugely conservative country. I mean, women are not even allowed to go out without a male escort. They're not allowed to drive. They're not even allowed to show their faces.
Here's the thing. I think Saudi Arabia isn't conservative. I think it's just, how do you say it? Oppressive. Because guess what? In Islam, it's never been about keeping women away from driving and going out without males. Like the Prophet Muhammad himself, his wife was richer than him, much richer. She was very important, and she protected him for as long as she lived. And it was off her wealth that he managed to prosper until he had to leave Mecca when she died. So this whole idea that women's rights being limited, and this new ultra-conservative Islam, it's a very new concept. So I wouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt for calling them ultra-conservative. I'm just going to say they're an oppressive regime, a new one.
Well, they are an oppressive regime. And you know what? The previous king, and I'm really sad that he died, honestly, because he was showing such promise into removing this oppressive culture that was in Saudi Arabia. I mean, he was the one that said that, women have to vote. They're part of our society. And it's a shame that not a lot of women vote, actually. So, as you guys can see in the article here, I'll highlight this. It is believed that 1.35 million men are registered to vote compared to 130,000 women. And I believe Saudi Arabia has about 21 million people, and it's about half-half for men and women. So I think one of the biggest things that these women who were elected, I think one of their biggest things is going to be pushing for more women to register to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
We, but-
Salma bint Yab al-Otabi, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. She won a seat in the region of Mecca, which is fantastic. You know, it's one of the biggest regions, political regions as well as religious. And she's gonna have a very big job ahead of her.
Yes. Also, it's like a new start. It's okay. I wasn't expecting like lots of women getting the parliament or etc. But if you think about it, even in Europe, some countries still have problems with elected women, even if it's lawful for them to vote. For example, in the Balkan area, there is a law saying that at least one third of the women must be elected. Like on the total of the seats, the one third must go to women, so they can.
I don't personally believe in that. I am not a fan of quotas. I think that you have to start. You cannot force it on people. You have to go from a social perspective on it. You have to do social activism
Yep.
into changing people's hearts about it. You cannot just make laws and force people to do it because all that will do is make people angry at each other.
Yep. You need to enforce cultural change. I completely agree
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
And we don't see enough of that in this world.
No, we don't. We see people try to push their ideals onto others. And you know what? Human beings, we are very angry
Yeah.
mammals, and when people try to push things onto us, we immediately butt heads of them. So I think that the way that this is going is great. Well, the promise that it shows is great. I think it's going obviously too slow. I'm a woman. I would, women. I personally believe that women are just as equal as men and politically capable as men. But I am happy to see that, I wouldn't have expected any woman to be elected on the first time that women were able to run for office. And the fact that 5 women were elected and one of them in the region of Mecca is just fantastic.
It's I think we should also see the fact that how people are going to see this, because again, it's about developing the cultural perspective of this.
Yeah.
Um, most people who don't really understand this situation would say, well, finally, those Muslims understand that women should not be treated differently as men. Whereas the message of the article is completely set aside. This is how most people would view it, and this might send a wrong message. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very happy about these women, but I understand their situation culturally, politically, whereas the majority of people might get the wrong idea.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. Like it is. It was only 10 years ago when like basically nobody could vote. So like this whole idea that like it was only. I think the whole thing is just like appeasement, really. It's to try and change the kingdom tiny by tiny before they have a massive revolution. Because once they run out of once their oil is not necessary, then people are going to start looking around and going, why exactly are you in charge? This country has the dynasty that rules its name in their freaking national identity. The Saudi Arabia, the Arabia of Saud, the House of Saud owns the country, and I'm sorry, until that changes, like it's always going to be this way. It's always going to be a backwards place, and it's always going to use a weird Islam that never existed until they created it as their justification. The Islam that isn't even 100 years old.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think we can all agree on this, that people use religion for their own benefit, and they will bastardize anything for their own benefit. And, you know, that's something that at least what is coming across is that it's changing in Saudi Arabia, and hopefully with the changing sentiment of these women being elected. And I mean, like, we have to view it this way as well. A lot of men had to vote for these women because women are only, like, what, 10% of the registered voters?
Oh.
Yeah, that's 10%, right? I'm horrible at math. So,
Um,
a lot of men had to vote for these women, and it shows, I think, the changing sentiment of the people in Saudi Arabia, and this shows, I think, future promise.
yeah,
All right,
but
so yeah,
I'm very skeptical about how far this goes, like how dedicated they are to change. As you said, it was a king, their previous king, that wanted to change things slightly, but he's a king. He has that
yeah,
power. If he really wanted to, he could have done it. Henry VIII almost created an entirely new religion because
yeah.
he wanted to divorce his wife.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
this guy's a king. Like,
yeah.
power will not concede. Like, authority will not concede power without force. Like, there needs to be an active voice, and that's what they were trying to appease. That's what they're trying to stop.
That's
think
right,
it's a
and I
delay
think
tactic.
that the international community needs to continue putting much more force on Saudi Arabia. Forget the fact that they have a ton of oil. There is a social commitment that we need to pay attention to, and I think the international community needs to continue putting pressure on Saudi Arabia to, if it's appeasement, that's fine as long as the appeasement goes so far as to actually create democracy. And I think it can be done, especially with a lot of Middle Eastern countries falling due to the fact that the regimes are very oppressive. All right, so we'll go on to the next topic. Russia. Oh, Russia. Russia fires warning shots at Turkey boat in the Aegean.
Well, I want to
So
start with by saying that being Greek, knowing what happens in the Aegean Ocean, like Turkish people, especially the last years, especially the last days, are really pressing like their limits. They invade Greek ground, etc. So like I don't know what's going on, but I know that the Russians and Turkish are in a place they must not be, and they are firing each other, so that's not great.
well, they've always had a rocky relationship. I mean, the Russians are claiming that they tried to contact it was a fishing boat near the Greek island of Lemnos.
Yes.
They tried to contact the boat. The boat didn't respond. They fired warning flares. The boat didn't respond. They were 500 meters away from running into each other. And boats are very fast. 500 meters would be like 5 meters to us. And so the Russians, they decided, we gonna have to use small arms to get them to notice that they're about to run into us. So there's obviously we can't know if that's exactly how it happened. Just like with the Turkey shooting down the Russian airplane, a lot of claims are being made back and forth. What are you guys' view on this?
Also, in that place, it's a place there are like lots of refugees are hosted there. So I think like it may cause trouble for the refugees. Maybe some of them were in the city during that time. So I think both Russia and Turkey must go away from Greek ground. But after that, I think like they must stop, or like I think we must try to solve this whole relationship in diplomacy ground.
Yeah. I mean, it's Russia though. Like Russians, I love my Russian friends. Please, if my Russian friends are listening, don't get me wrong, but the Russians do have a tendency to overreact a little bit. So
Here's the thing. We also have to consider this, that some people view this as a possible act of war, and that these tense moments that are continuously happening between Turkey and Russia might result ultimately in World War III. But in my opinion, they're just throwing stones at each other because of the fact that although Putin might, or Russia in general might think that they could handle their own and that they prove strong. They're just like a big dog, which I'm not saying that it could not bite, but it's just barking right now. Because let's view from the let's view what happened in the past, specifically the Crimean War, where Russia was beaten when Russia and Turkey were trying to fight for the Crimean Peninsula, and on the side of Turkey, many European countries intervened. That would be the same case nowadays. So basically, they're just, as I said before, they're just throwing stones at each other just to prove who is stronger. But if there are any worries, they are most likely to be false.
Yeah.
I mean, what that's reminding me of, I think, is from Family Guy, the clip of the two dogs chained that are barking at each other, and then the chain breaks, and they both are like, holy crap, let's run away now. That's what it reminds me. It reminds me of children throwing fits. Like, to
Yep.
be honest.
Yeah, I have to agree. Turkey is a member of NATO, we have to remember. So
Yeah.
there's absolutely not going to be any aggressive acts from no
And
real
also,
war.
a lot of people consider Turkey to be part of Europe.
Yeah,
A
except
lot
for
of
the
people
European
do.
Union.
Except for the European Union. But, like, isn't like half of Turkey inside the European continent and the other half in Asia?
Oh, don't get me started. I don't think that Europe is a continent to begin with. Like, it has no defined boundaries. It has no tectonic plate that it sits
It's
on
a
by itself.
political continent.
This is just a cultural construct. If we're going to call Europe a continent, we might as well call the Middle East and India continents as well, because they're just as,
Yeah.
culturally different to Asia as the rest, as Europe is. But in my views of it, this is just Russia being Russia. You got to remember, this is the country that's been invading, well, not invading, crossing into the airspaces of other countries for a while
yeah.
now. It's just
Well,
what
They
they
crossed,
do.
like, what, twice into English airspace?
Dude,
Twice or
Exactly.
3 times? Like, here's the thing. Putin is crazy. He is cray-cray.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
that's what power does to people, and he is pushing his limits.
I don't even think he is crazy. I think that this is very calculated. If you look at him, he is a very intelligent man. He's KGB. What they're doing is they're testing everybody. They're trying to see how far they can push things. They want to
Yep.
see how it's basically like a bit, dramatic over here, but Hitler's provocations of the rest of Europe. It's just, oh, I'll poke you here and see what you do near. Oh, I'll break this treaty. Let's see what you do here. Like, it's just them testing their military power, because guess what? They're not happy about the Soviet Union collapsing. Like, he still isn't happy about that. And you
Oh
can see with the
my
actions in Ukraine and Georgia that they definitely want they want their power back and their world standing. And this is him, and the Russian people do support him on this. A lot of them do anyway.
Yeah.
That they want their national pride back. They're very nationalistic, and he is actually viewed by a lot of them as a hero. So this is just Russia being Russia, and I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything to be alarmed about.
I think once they realize that, there's a line that people won't let them cross, they will head back. But speaking of Hitler, let me bring it up here. Trump. So John Kasich, which is another nominee for the Republican Party in America, he's one of the most vocal critics of Donald Trump. He hates Donald Trump. And one of his ads was literally, well, not literally, but you could tell that it was comparing Trump to Hitler. And I'll just read it off of here. You might not care if Donald Trump says Muslims must register with their government because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump says he's going to round up all the Hispanic immigrants because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump says it's okay to rough up black protesters because you're not one. And you might not care if Donald Trump wants to suppress journalists because you're not one. And the reason why everyone's like, oh my god, John Kasich just called Donald Trump Hitler, is because this is very, very similar to the words that are written on the Holocaust Memorial Museum, which, if anyone knows, it's the first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist, and so on and so on. And you know what? Personally, and I am going on a little bit of a rant here. Personally, I hate Donald Trump. He's an absolute moron. And as a Hispanic immigrant who lived in America for 8 years, I am completely offended by his comments of calling, Hispanic immigrants rapists and murderers and things like that. Because you know what? My dad worked very hard. My dad and my mom worked very hard all those years we were in America. And I am just personally offended by everything he says.
Here's the thing, he's an opportunist, and this is what he does. I don't think he himself is a fascist so much as he's filled a void. He's seen that this is what the American people want, which is, well, not all, well, a majority of them don't want it, obviously, but
Yeah.
you can see a very vocal minority who want him.
Yeah.
And it's just him filling a void. It's like capitalism, really. It's just, oh, look, there's a market for tyrannical arse. Let me be that guy. Let me be the person that will say all these terrible things that people will clap for. Yeah, let's send all the immigrants home, ignoring the fact that all our ancestors are immigrants. Let's talk about religious extremists whilst the KKK is still a thing. Let's talk about, the fighting other people when always talking about waging war on China, which is a very dumb thing to do with the second largest military
just
on the
on
planet.
people alone, China would be would cause they wouldn't beat the U.S. because obviously the U.S. has a lot superior technology, but they would cause a lot of damage.
For the
But you know
world.
what? Yeah, for the world, and also it's something like some of the things he says are literally like things that Hitler did, like saying that Muslims have to register with the government. Hitler literally did that. Jews, homosexuals, Muslims, blacks, those with disabilities, they all had to register with the government.
You know what's funny about Hitler? He was more discreet.
Yeah.
Hitler was more subtle about all of this. All the craziness of, like, putting people into camps and, like, evacuating them out of lands made for Germans. All of this came after he was already in power. Trump was nowhere near power.
And also, we also have to deal with one thing. The normal German, during Nazi Germany, the normal German, the everyday German, didn't know that Jews were put into concentration camps and that they were in such horrible conditions because the Hitler's regime actually did propaganda saying that, they were being treated nicely, they were having food, they were working to help the country and all that kind of bullshit and things like that. But you know you're a horrible person when you can be literally compared as being worse than Hitler.
But here's another thing. If we are comparing to Hitler, we also have to take in consideration how the media covers everything. What do we have nowadays? We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Tumblr, we have a lot of newspapers, we have TV coverage, we have a lot of ways to acquire said information. Now, back in Hitler's time, there was almost no way to acquire this information apart from newspapers and the occasional radio. Therefore, Hitler's propaganda was way easier to spread. And that's why we consider it funny nowadays to compare Donald Trump to Hitler, because we actually know how racism works nowadays. We actually know how discrimination works. Back then, as you said, many people, not just Germans, but a lot of nations in general, were unaware of this discrimination, because discrimination wasn't a debatable that much of a debatable topic back then.
It wasn't I think sorry to cut you off. I think it was not that it wasn't a debatable topic. He couldn't use discrimination. I think the problem was that back then it wasn't as easy to obtain and share information as it is today.
Well, yeah, that is my point. This news reached the entire world overnight, almost. and this tells a lot. That's my point. It's easier to compare Donald Trump nowadays because we are better aware of this, thanks to ways to get information.
Yeah.
Oh, don't mistake this for us being worried that somehow Trump might get into power, because he won't. If he wins the Republican nomination, which I don't see happening really, like
He's not gonna win it. I mean, I'm gonna be honest right here. The person who's probably gonna win it is going to be Hillary Clinton, which is another horrible candidate. But
oh, I'm talking about the Republican nomination.
no, I mean the presidency as a whole, because
yeah.
Jeb Bush is gonna win the Republican nomination. He's a Bush.
Yeah.
He's gonna win the Republican nomination. But because so many Republicans are supporting Donald Trump and Ben Carson, Jeb Bush is not going to be able to win the presidency. Bernie Sanders, which is another horrible candidate, does not have enough support to win the Democratic nomination. So Hillary Clinton's going to win the Democratic nomination, and she's going to win just basic on the votes of Jeb Bush is going to have votes stolen by Donald Trump and Ben Carson.
Well, to be fair, even like everything, at the end of the day, whoever wants, all of them will have power because Donald Trump is rich, Bush is a Bush, and like all of them, even if they are horrible and inferior candidates, even if they don't win the presidency, for example, Donald Trump is having too much money to preaching his ideas, even if he never go in politics again. Like even if he hides in a cave and get out, give money and say his opinion.
Well, I think one of the things that's also happening now is that Donald Trump is being universally hated.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Donald Trump is going to destroy the Republican Party. Like that's what I see happening. Like
he is.
People will vote just to vote against this guy. If he somehow by some miracle won it, he would destroy the Republican Party.
Yep.
And you'd have to replace it.
I personally, I am an independent, but I tend to go with a little bit with the right wing, a little more right than left. But I am independent. I'm in the middle. And one of the things that really sad for me is that candidates like John Kasich, Marco Rubio, even Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush is not a perfect candidate whatsoever. And even Rand Paul. I love the Pauls, by the way. They are more moderates, and they would have a much more clear message to send. But no, the media keeps giving Donald Trump fucking attention. Excuse my English.
That's the thing. The ones who shout loudest get the most attention.
Yeah.
It's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So, yeah, it's a vocal minority, but they're loud. They're very loud, and they really like Trump right now. And guess what? Trump is entertaining.
Yeah, he is interesting. It's like watching an idiot try to have a debate.
In fact, it is. Like, have you watched his debates? Like, he doesn't even have counter arguments. He just insults the people around him for no reason.
I was watching one of his speeches today, and I just had to stop and laugh because everything he takes, he's like a child throwing a tantrum. Every time someone criticizes him, he takes it as like, they insulted his mother. Or something like that.
Yeah, it's become more like an MTV mama joke contest or something.
Yeah.
It's just
and let's not forget.
At one stage I heard him say just this clip. It was like, who do you want to be your president? Do you want Hillary or do you want Trump? Whilst raising his hands. Do you want Jeb Bush or do you want Trump? Like he wasn't saying anything, but it was entertaining. I could see if I was some, low-income white racist in America, how you'd vote for Donald Trump, because he's just so charismatic.
Let's not forget that he also made a lot of cameo appearances over there. Like, the most known is the Home Alone 2 appearance. I mean, he appeared in Home Alone 2 in the Plaza Hotel trying to guide the main character towards the lobby.
He appeared in WWE.
He's been on the Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Yeah.
This guy's been everywhere.
He's the person behind Miss Universe.
And you know what? He's also, well, in his own words, he's a self-made man. You remember when his father gave him that small $1 million loan to build up his first company?
Yeah. Oh my god.
This guy is a running joke that everybody else can see, but the people who would actually vote for him.
I mean, like, here's the thing, like, it's something as, you know, I have a lot of love for the United States. I was raised there. And I mostly, somewhat agree with, you know, the right there. I won't say mostly agree because I don't. But, and it just makes me angry that it's being so, it's just so poor. But you know what? Talking about crazy politics, Mo, you had something that you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, the leader of my home country, the Gambia, our president, the great Sheikh, the Professor, Doctor Elaji Yahya Jammeh. Yeah, these are all his titles that he had given to him for no reason. This was also the man who tried to start a campaign to make himself king a couple of, years ago, which was hilarious. Yeah, he has declared our country to be an Islamic state from now on in the Iran and Saudi Arabia. You know, those great role models of what a state should be, as we'd all agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Iran is the country where you can be legally accountable at 18 if you're a male, but if you're a female, you're legally accountable at 13.
Yeah. Iran is just a wonderful place. Like, do we have to sing around virtues at this stage? Like, we all know that we all want to live in Iran right now, don't we?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to go live in Iran. I mean, perfection. Totally.
The funny part is, like, our economy is tourism based. A large part of it is just tourism, because the Gambia, in all realities, because of the cultures around it, its location, the people that live there, it really shouldn't be a country. It is. The cultures are identical to its neighboring countries. The only reason it's a country is because the British took land either side of a river to control some trade in West Africa, and now it's a state because it was a former British colony. And now it is just a tourist destination because it has white beaches. That is it. And guess who is actually putting off the idea of Western tourism going to a place that calls itself an Islamic state in the modern world right now is kind of ridiculous. So he's basically scored an own goal against our own economy, and he hasn't done enough to diversify our economy for that to be a problem. Oh yeah, I would love for our country to stop being a tourism-based country and actually be a legit place to live and stuff like that. But at this stage, it's not. No need to damage it.
The problem isn't even that it's an Islamic state, is that he's assigning a religion to the country. I am religious, but I am also the personal belief that no country should have a religion. All countries should have secular government. Religion has no place in politics.
I would have to agree. Like, the Gambia is 95% Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Christians in my own family, like my favorite cousins, some of them are Christians, and here's the thing. In the Gambia, like, even our version of Islam is not similar to that of the Middle East. Because Islam came to West Africa very early on. Like, within 100 years of the Prophet's death, we were already having Muslims around this place, and we were not conquered. We peacefully converted. We chose to convert. The empires of West Africa chose to convert to Islam. So we've always had our own way of doing things. It's always ran in tandem with our culture. So you see with Gambian, like, there's this national identity and this national unity that you see within our people, and we're not separated. You don't see fights between Christians and Muslims and pagans. We all see ourselves first as Gambians, and then religion is personal. It's a very private thing, their religion, and it's respected. So this damages that.
Yes.
for no reason whatsoever.
I think this I'm not, yeah, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this will put a lot of tension in between the religious minorities in Gambia with I think even with the Muslim majority.
I agree. Like it is just not. It was an unnecessary thing to do. Like, you know what I would actually prefer? Call it an African republic. Point to some um what's the thing, Pan Africanism. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But no, instead it looks like instead of pandering to the West and trying to get Western tourism to come here and keep our economies afloat, now we're looking towards the Middle East and asking them to subsidize his dictatorship, basically. And you know what? This is just all round a bad move. All round a really dumb thing to do. He's created problems where there were no problems before.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing of governments going crazy, isn't it? I mean, today in Brazil, we are having a nationwide protest against our president, Dilma Rousseff, who is a social a raging socialist. She's actually going to hopefully be impeached. Her impeachment process was accepted by the head of Congress, who is by no way a saint and needs to be impeached as well. But you know, I mean, Brazilian politics is just one big joke. We actually run a huge danger of having a clown, a literal clown, being president.
Uh,
So if our president is impeached, um, all the next people who would take up her position, so the vice president, I think it's the secretary of state, like all the the list of who gets the presidency if
Yeah.
the president is unavailable. They are all facing corruption charges, so they can't take up the presidency. So the person who then takes up the presidency, when all those people aren't available, is the congressperson that has had the most votes, that was elected with the most votes, and it is literally a clown. His stage name is Chiririca, and he has won he was voted when he was voted in. He had the most votes in Brazilian history. So Brazil's gonna literally be run by clowns. Isn't that great?
Oh wow! It's like you're Latin America's answer to the United States in this very weird alternative version of it. Like you
Yeah.
have everything like you have similar history to the United States and everything, and you found a way to both be running in the same direction at this stage, where America's got a clown currently running for president, and you guys might actually have a clown become president.
Yeah. We're screwed, man. I mean, we're not like screwed like Venezuela. Venezuela is very screwed. I mean, thankfully they had the elections, the opposition won in Congress, and in 2 years' time, they can have the referendum to impeach Maduro. But at least we're not that bad. So we're gonna be.
I don't know, like
I am
homeless workers building like giant football stadiums. Like that just says all you have to say about the status of a nation's equality and progress.
Oh, dude, if we start talking about Brazil and the World Cup, I will literally go on a rant for several hours, so let's not do that.
Yeah, Alex, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that, well, given crazy subjects about countries, I would like to say something good happened in Romania, and that the budget for the next year for our country was calculated, and this year they did not include any money for the Romanian Orthodox Church, which I might add, in all the years after the revolution of '89, when we converted to a democratical system, they have been constantly receiving increasing numbers of money, reaching to the millions of euros. Now, I would say that this decision was made given some recent events, specifically a gigantic fire which happened in a club in Bucharest. And what happened was a massive scandal relating to the local church, because what happened was that a lot of young people died, and no spokesperson from the church, which is recognized as an official institution, came to say may God have them mercy or something along those lines. And this stirred up a lot of tension because the Orthodox Church viewed these people as Satanists and that they deserved to die. Furthermore, there are almost 1,500 churches in Romania, but no more than 300 hospitals. And
What?
yeah, there is a village in Romania which literally has 30 churches. One village has 30 churches. And
How many
and-
hospitals?
uh, the village is like 120 people. And we've been having this problem for like a few years, and people have been complaining that the church is getting way too much money, and now they are trying to solve this problem finally.
Well, in Greece, which is like also an Orthodox country, the church is not paying taxes at all. And actually, the problem with Greece is like the Greek church is having, for example, the second biggest country in town in Greece is the size of Birmingham, and 63% of the property is owned by the church of that region, and they rent the houses, all of these things, and they don't pay taxes for this because it's church, and like they want to change this. And also another problem is that the Minister of Education is also Minister of Religion, which says that it's depriving some particular religions from government, because for example a paganist can never be Minister of Education, and a person who is like even Catholic can't be. He has to be specifically Eastern Orthodox to be Minister of Education.
Are both these states are they like officially Orthodox states? Like, do you guys have official like national religions?
Yes, it's the official national religion of Greece.
And what about Romania?
Yes.
It's the same. The official religion is Christian Orthodox.
Right. Interesting.
But like they are not paying taxes, and people with making under 5,000 euros per year, which is like 3,200 pounds, they pay taxes.
Yeah, not to mention, well, at least in Romania, I don't know how it is in other countries, but the local church is getting a lot of money from simple old people, which literally give their whole pension sometimes as donations to the church.
Yeah, I'm very against organized religion. So, I think that's a good note to finish on, though.
Yeah.
We actually overran. We were only going to be on for 30 minutes. We've been on for almost an hour. So, thank you to everyone who joined us. We will be here again next Sunday at 6 p.m. You might see the same people. You might see different people. And if you have any topics you would like us to discuss next week, just post it on our Facebook page or message to us on Facebook, and we'll be more than happy to do it.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Night.